Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. The topic of this 10-minute moan is a response to Keir Starmer's press conference earlier this morning, where he tackles everything that was wrong with Southport, yet failed. Now, over the summer, and before the summer, it was just ignited by the horrific murders of those three lovely wee girls in Southport. The UK citizens have had concerns. Concerns about knife crime, they've had concerns about terror, they've had concerns about the amount of unregistered and unknown young men coming into our country in an ever rising number. And these concerns were ignited when all those three things were put together that awful morning in Southport. We had the knife crime, which is an evident terror attack by someone who was assumed, but we were only one generation out, was an immigrant young man. We then get painted the picture that this was a choir boy from Wales, and that was a narrative driven by the government, the judiciary, and the media. So today, STARMER decided to tell us all what happened. And that press conference was nothing more than justifications for his poor behaviour and trying to paint him as a guy who's done nothing wrong. But unfortunately, Keir, you've done lots wrong. Now you're talking about new laws to redefine terror and change laws, when it wasn't the laws that let down those three little girls in Southport. It was people. There is plenty of laws that could have stopped what happened in Southport. So laws don't need changing, yet you this morning seem determined to change legislation to declassify almost terrorists. And we now talk about this people who have got an aversion to or an affinity to violence. So you don't need new laws to go and arrest these people and stop them doing their things. Okay, it was people that let down these little girls, not legislation. But you want to change legislation. Now I can say this was a terror attack because it's simple, and I don't have access to all the information and evidence that you and your government and your judiciary have. This boy was in possession of a toxic poison used by terrorists. He's been in possession of a manual for years. It comes to light. It wasn't just a new thing. He'd had this manual in his possession for years. And the mere fact that we seem to just ignore is that he carried out this act in a place that wasn't easy to find. It was a bit off the beaten track for him, but was celebrating Taylor Swift. And we know that Taylor Swift concerts were already targets for Islamic fundamentalist terrorists. But we have to believe that this act was completely random, just so you and anybody else that doesn't want to classify this as an act of terror can do so. And then now you're going to redefine law for an unneeded reason. So what will you use these laws for? Now God knows, because we don't know what you're going to do with them. But the concerns with the British people is you'll use them against people who don't agree with your ideology. And when people have concerns and possibly want to protest, which is a God-given right as a UK citizen, your new laws might categorise them as these non-terrorist but violent people. So we don't need new laws. When people are intent on doing bad things, we have laws there to do it. And it's the system and the process and your prevent thing, which will cover, by the way, this is a horrific thing. And I'm going to be covering that in another video, just stand alone on it. But that's what let these girls down. That was the biggest fundamental flaw the British government made that led to those three beautiful wee girls being murdered and almost another 8 of their friends and 2 adults. And you don't even want to talk about it. You go on about, you made a comment that we monitor what people watch in cinemas, but we don't in online, and how we might need to have laws to stop people seeing things that are online. But who gets to decide that? I sure as hell hope it's no you. Because you've already shown that you only want people to understand and believe your narratives, not others. So you're worrying me that you're wanting new laws to dream up new categories for people, which we don't need them because you're either a terrorist or you're not. And you're evidently going to make a play on culling information that's online. And we talk about disinformation. And that is true. There is disinformation online. Because you told us that this was a Welsh choir boy. That was disinformation. But who's going to get to decide what this is disinformation and what is the truth? Because that's the difficult bit. And I'm perfectly honest with you, wouldn't trust you or your government to be able to do that. It's absolutely disgusting. So, you lied as well today about you not being able to put out some information. And the reason you lied is very simple, and you should know this answer. You will know this answer because you're a lawyer at heart. Nobody is liable to contempt of court rules until someone is charged. Not arrested, not a suspect, charged. So there was a perfectly reasonable window where anybody could have told us the truth without any concern for the law at all. So you weren't concerned about telling the British people the truth and just you couldn't because of some laws. You deliberately kept the truth from the British people, because if that was your driver and you're this poor wee guy that I'd love to have told you but I couldn't because of the law, you just lied to the British nation this morning as you have done since July. The other disgusting thing I felt from the press conference today is you totally refused to even consider that the vacuum of information that you caused didn't help lead to what happened after that, the protests and riots. Now, I'm not going to suggest for a minute that people would have protested, because people have concerns and they still have those concerns, and you until this moment have still not addressed those concerns. But you'd also be foolish to not understand that there wouldn't have been as many. If the people feel the government's telling them the truth, they're less likely to go out and protest, which then unfortunately led to some violence. So that was just nonsense. You also lied to us the days after that when there was violence in the streets of the United Kingdom. And you told us that the far right were, in your words, transporting people by train all across the country to cause acts of violence. Now, since then, there's been over 400 people convicted out of what you term as the far right. Now, how many of them, if any at all, travelled more than a short distance from their homes to protest, and a small number to riot? Because that was just lies. Absolute lies. You were trying to paint a picture. It was some movement that doesn't exist out there coordinating this violence, when it wasn't. It was a natural reaction to people who have concerns and they felt that their government, judiciary and media were not dealing with the concerns, and you still haven't to this day. Knife crime, terror and unregistered young men coming into our country in great numbers. What have you done? Not one word in your press conference today even considered any of those things. Not one. All your press conference covered today was giving excuses for you to change laws and tell people how fantastic you are and you've done nothing wrong. But when the government's police and the media withhold information, and obviously hold information from people in the public, that can only cause more distrust. And that's when we end up with problems. You told us from day one that this was not terror related. And you refused to answer a question. You just skipped it today when somebody asked you, when did you know about the ricin, about the Al-Qaeda manual, and all the other stuff about has been recommended to prevent 3 times, right? You totally ignored that question. Because if you answered that question, you'd have confirmed that you told us lies. When you told us categorically it was not terror, I believe, and anybody with half a head would believe, that you knew all these facts. Yet you're still telling us to this day, even as the facts are coming out, that it was not terror related. And there's this nonsense that because of fear, and you used this line a few times, of ruining this trial, that's why you said nothing. And I'm calling bullshit on that too. Because we are told when we take a stand when we go into a jury, one of the first things we're instructed to do is to ignore anything we previously have heard about this. It's something that happens in every case across the land. And you're saying that we could have influenced people who are potential jurors, because that's what the contempt of court's all about. So let me ask you one question. Why is it that telling somebody is a terrorist has influenced them and you're not allowed to do that? But telling them he's a wee choir boy from Wales is not influencing. Of course it's influencing. Everything out there could influence somebody, good or bad. But when we talk about contempt of court, it's only the bad things we're not allowed to talk about. This teenage boy, schoolboy, he'd been expelled, right? But we were like, it's a schoolboy from Wales. That's influencing jurors. That's influencing jurors as much as telling them this boy had an Al-Qaeda manual. The other thing you fail to tell us is when were these terror charges put into the charge list? Yet you still want to tell us it's not terror related. It is absolute bedlam and just it beggars belief in common sense that you should be doing what you're doing. And something I picked up from the words of someone talking on behalf of the local people of Southport. You're out there today claiming that the most important thing was these 3 girls and their families. Yet when you went to Southport, you stood paying respects, putting your flowers down for 19 seconds. 19 seconds. Then you were away doing whatever you felt was more important to you. Talked to nobody, showed zero respect, and stood there. A whole 19 seconds of your life you gave up for the memory of those little girls and the ones that were all injured at the time. You're a despicable person. You really are. And that sham today of a press conference is fooling nobody that wants to actually consider what you were saying. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and the notification bell. Let me know your comments and opinions below, but most importantly of all, unless you are a Prime Minister that wants to lie to this country and the good people of this country and cover up your ills, nobody else's. Not you, but
everyone else. Have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.